Yes, please. Thank you, Carlos.
Okay, so here we are with grit and resilience. Two really important topics in life, especially youth champions being able to learn them early on. I think that's really incredible. So, what I typically would like to do in this situation is start with a story instead of like defining what it is or even just kind of getting too far into it. Just come in with a story. Um, maybe something a time when you had to be, had to use some grit or some resiliency during your own struggles. Opening up with a story really allows you to connect quickly with the students, or really anybody for that matter. And it's actually one of the things I learned, just being a public speaker, that the there's a certain way if they did this study that if you start a speech, or if you start anything off with once upon a time, actually it's very it pulls people in, it draws them in. Because as a kid, a lot of us have grew up and we used to listen to stories, and we have that connection to them. So starting off with a story is really a powerful way to get into it, and it allows you to engage early with students to kind of break the ice. So that's what I would recommend here. Next slide. Okay. Obviously, after that, I would, go into a reflection on what happened last week to help to solidify some of that knowledge with the students. It actually is many studies have shown that when you go back, when you take some time and then reconnect with prior learning, it helps for you to actually remember it better. So, a great way to being able to do that is to reflect back, and last week what we covered, and even maybe aside from these bullet points, maybe just calling on some of the students to ask them what they remember from last week. And even if you have these up here and they talked about, and they're like reading word for word one of these bullet points or something, that's okay, because you're still getting them to have to speak it and to process it. So it's like, again, it's always better to engage early. So right here would be a good opportunity to. Next slide. Learning objectives kind of sets the tone. This is a good space to just kind of cover what they're going to be learning. And then also, what I like to do is to incorporate right here why it's important that they learn it. What is it? Why is it important? And how they can benefit from it, and they could use it in their own life, so it's relatable to them. So here's where I'll kind of touch on that, and not just what it is, not what we're going to learn, but why it's so important for them in their lives. And obviously, having grit and resiliency, it would be important for them because they're young and they're probably have already been through some difficulties in life, but more difficulties will come. So I think that just making that really clear that it's a part of life. You're going to you're going to deal with a lot of challenges. That's normal. Having grit and resiliency helps you to get through that. So that's a thing that you can take with you your whole life. Next slide. Yeah. And then explain that grit equals passion times perseverance over time. Use examples like athletes, study habits, or gaming progressions. These are in the notes that I have that I will be submitting to everybody afterward. And then maybe run a poll right here would be a good time to run a poll on consistency versus intensity. And you know, just like asking them the question, like, what do you think is more important, consistency or intensity? Which one do you feel is more important? And run a poll and let them kind of have to start to think on things and reflect on things. And there is really no wrong answer in this point. It's just really what they feel. And at the end of the session, they will walk away, understanding the importance of consistency, but let them figure that out on their own is always the best solution. Is to help. Facilitating is really just about helping students discover things on their own, not providing them the answers or telling them what it should be, but helping them uncover their from themselves, because then they'll really connect to it, and they'll be able to use it, and they'll feel like it's something that they uncovered and not something that was told to them. Next slide. Yeah, online workbook question. Think about something you've stuck with over time. What helped you stay consistent even when the initial excitement faded? And so this would be a good chance to give students an opportunity to do some personal reflection in their own life. And I think it's important to have the time to look to do this, to process this, and to connect what they've learned so far with their own life. So this is a good place for that. Next slide. Yeah, resilience equals balancing back and learning from setbacks. So growth mindset, something that we've talked about. Connecting it to that just approaching everything with a level of understanding that you can accomplish it if you work hard, if you don't give up, if you keep going, you can learn stuff, you can accomplish things. Optimism as a buffer. It's good to stay optimistic in life, and this is a good time to use some examples too. Stress inoculation, stories of resilience. So this is a good opportunity to share some more stories. A video maybe. I know that videos have been really impactful in the past, and I've used them throughout different sessions. And I think it's each class is different. So pick a video that you think would resonate more with your class. I've had classes where most of the kids were into soccer, so I would find videos that were about soccer. Or some kids, that I discovered a lot of kids were into, you know gaming or something, and then find things that are really connected to your class. And it doesn't take long. You could just look things up on YouTube and search things, and you can find good videos. Next slide. Yeah, an online workbook question. Think of a time you failed at something important. How did you respond? And what would you do differently now with a growth mindset? Yeah, it's a good time to get more students to engage and to speak on these things, and utilize different opportunities like breakout rooms to do these questions. And um, one thing I learned about breakout rooms was that sometimes it's good to assign, like, and so if you make a breakout room of 3 to 4 students or whatever, depending on the class, assign one person to kind of be like, to be like a timekeeper, and to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. If you have an alumni, that would be a great person to assign that to. But also, it gives the students some ownership of something. So if there's a student that you go bounce around from different breakout rooms, and you go in there and say, all right, Michael, I want you to be the timekeeper, making sure that we have 2 minutes, making sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak for a certain amount of time so everybody can share. Because sometimes some kids won't share or be able to share, and it's better to get everybody to share a little bit of something than one person to take up all the time. Plus, it's some accountability in that. Next slide. How to build grit and resilience in your own life. This is where it gets really practical. They can write this stuff down. I would recommend that. Choose one challenge and stick with it. Reframe failure as feedback. Build small, consistent habits. This would be a good way to also use some, like a personal example, because you're giving them a framework, you're giving them a process, and it's easier to understand the processes when you use an example. So right here would be a good time to do that. Next slide. Yeah, next question. Think of one area in your life where you want to become more consistent or resilient. What are small actions you can take each day to move forward, and how will you remind yourself to keep going when it gets hard? And then these areas are cool. My area of focus, my daily action, how I'll stay consistent. This is a good thing that they can practice even daily. I think that they get used to doing this. Just explain to them like this is how they can really get things accomplished and be able to develop grit and resiliency by applying these processes here, and then just getting some people to share will be really beneficial. Next slide. Yeah, the next class, getting into the next class, just looking forward and talking about the four agreements. I think what I used to like to do is provide maybe like a little bit of like a video or something to give them a glimpse into the next class, so it gets them a little bit interested. And some students may go and actually explore what this topic is going to be beforehand, which would be great. I think that's teaching them a good thing about just being prepared. Um, yeah, and also utilize the chat throughout this time too when you ask questions. Make sure you use the chat. Kids are more likely to respond in chat than verbally. So if you have a class who doesn't they don't really like to respond verbally, use the chat. I mean, it's a great way to get them to engage in a comfortable way, and then eventually, some of them will come out of their shells and actually be able to speak. But yeah, using the chat is a really good thing throughout this session too. Next slide. 90-second workbook time. Take the next 90 seconds to finish the questions in your workbook, complete the survey. This is good. Giving them this time frame so they can be focused. Yeah, next slide. And then announcements. I also have, as I mentioned, I have a grit and resilience like facilitator type of notes that I took. Basically just stuff that I cover right now. But also like another thing called it's like a master guide of teaching. So to follow this process of using this rhythm of like teach, engage, reflect, apply, share. And what that means is like, you teach something, you engage with the students, you create an opportunity for reflection, ask questions of how would you apply this. So now it's like making something real, and then sharing thoughts, sharing your perspectives on what you think about grit, what do you think about resiliency, what's your thought on that. And so that's a good framework that I have that you can kind of use throughout this session and other classes. Um, it's that teach, engage, apply, share. It's a good learning process that you can use. And yeah, call on students by their name to increase connection. I think that's important too. When kids hear their name or anybody hears their name, you develop a connection with the person. But it's better than, just saying like, hey, does anybody want to respond? No, just call on somebody like Michael, what do you think? Or would you like to respond? Um, yeah, and then like I said, use polls. Always provide clear instructions. And that is good because you could just read off of the slide what it's there. Sometimes the questions are like loaded questions where there's three questions in one. There's many questions. So um, sometimes it's good to just make sure that they understand the question in full, not just a part of it. Um, yeah, and then yeah, after the breakout sessions, usually a good thing to do is to do a debrief. I usually after the breakout sessions, like immediately ask, like, okay, would somebody like to share? Call somebody and say, what happened in your group? Like immediately after the session, and yeah, model engagement. I think that engagement is contagious. So energy is contagious. So if you model engagement, meaning that you're into it, you actually are excited about the material, you are engaging with the students, that's going to be a contagious thing for others to feel comfortable doing it. Um, yeah, and then yeah, you want to create a psychologically safe environment. So what that means is that if you can create a space where kids feel comfortable speaking, even if they're they they're not sure that their answer is right, that they're okay with being wrong, and or feeling like that they can speak on something even if they think that they're wrong, and they're probably not wrong, but they may think that. But if you create an environment where they can open up like that, that's a psychologically safe environment, and that's the best space to create. And it really comes through trust, like them feeling that they can trust the environment, they can trust you as the facilitator to support them if they aren't sure about something, to help them to understand it. So yeah, creating that and holding and calling on some of them that may be quiet, getting them out of their comfort zone. It's not a bad thing to do that. To get these kids out of their comfort zone to speak up. It will strengthen them. So, but these are like just some facilitator things that I have that I'll share with all of you. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you learned something, Sheila.
I did a lot. But yeah, mostly I'm just listening because it's been such a long time since I heard you do this kind
Yeah,
of thing. So it's always
I know.
such
I miss it.
an experience. Yeah. Hopefully you'll be able to
Yeah,
do it next year.
yeah, I probably will, just because I miss it and I enjoy it, like engaging with the students and but yeah, that's good.
All right. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Carlos. And if you can also share that PDF file with me or with the facilitators in the
Hmm.
group chat, we would really appreciate that. That would be a really,
Yeah,
really great help for them.
for sure. I will.
All right. Thank you so much,
Hmm.
Carlos. And to all our facilitators, if you guys are watching, I would just like to go to the announcement part. So we are going to have a field trip on March 15, and we will also encourage you guys to RSVP so that we know who's coming. All right. So I think that's it for level one. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Sheila.